right, I'm here with Coach Jeff Ragan. First, Coach, how are things in your neck of the woods? And I know your neck of the woods has changed a little bit, and we're going to get to that, but how are you doing just generally?
Generally doing much better. Sort of went through a few unfun things during the season from too many hospital visits and too many hospital trips and surgeries. And, I got to tell you, as fun as it was for the guys and for me to end on a high note, win that 5th state title in 5 years at Woodward Academy, it was bittersweet because ultimately, I was, trying to just stay standing at the state duels. If I couldn't, yelling at the refs, not that that's how I do things, but at least making myself heard to my student athletes and to the refs was almost impossible. I remember I had a nurse watching me from the stands, and if I would stand up, she'd give me the whole sit back down because you're only out of this hospital for this reason. And they slipped me out of the hospital basically,
So,
probably
so
24
I don't
hours
think
before I
many
got
of
to
us
go.
knew that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't want to delve into that too much, but I think it's important for the context. For those that don't know, you went through some things when you were at the Citadel, and kind of have been working through that and those sorts of things over, a period of time. And it just kind of became a thing this year because you were doing really well a couple of years ago. I remember having a conversation.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you have a lot of surgeries and, you're on dialysis for 2 years and you have a transplant and you do all these things. And that's sort of part of the, experience of, all right, now I'm on anti-rejection drugs for the rest of my life. And, I'm grateful that my brother gave me that kidney and that I'm able to have such a good match that, some people might take, 40 pills a day. I'm closer to 2 dozen pills a day. But, things that might be, normal for some people, just affect me a little differently. But I had a little bit of a hiccup maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Me and Nick Masters, we were going at it after Fargo, and he was talking a big game. He got second at Fargo, and he was, look how good I am. And I said, listen, I've been wrestling you with just one hand, since I met you. I said, don't make me pull my other arm out because I had a fistula in my other arm, And he's like, oh, and then of course I proceeded to get a really good leg lace with the wrong arm. And next thing I know, trying to rub dirt on it for a week. And, I told the doctor what happened and they said, you need to come to Mercy room right away. And, I waited till the end of the day on Friday and I was back to school on Monday, but that was 600 internal stitches, 180 staples. So literally it ruptured in the middle of surgery. So I try to blow things off and act like everything's fine. And sometimes they are, and sometimes you push through them. And, this experience this year kind of was a reminder that, waiting to retire to where you want to go and what you want to do. And, spending the rest of your life with someone that you love dearly and doing what you love, where you love doing it, that perspective of why wait, this changed a lot of things for my mindset. I got married, only a couple weeks ago. We're moving down there. She's going to be a dean at Port Charlotte High School, and I'm going to take over as the, basically honors math teacher and head wrestling coach, which is what my dad did 45 years ago. So, it was something that maybe I could have brushed off. I think I had a fever of 106 2 days in a row right around Christmas time. And I couldn't shake it. And they threw me in the hospital for, a better part of a week. And when they let me out, to do what, I thought I needed to do, I tried to get back into things and was back in the hospital in a matter of, a few weeks later. And, same thing. It was 11 or 12 days in the hospital, 18 doctor visits, 2 surgeries, all the things going on literally on the day, every day, to the point where when I was winning the state title, my wife was driving down and giving me intravenous medicine, and I had tubes coming out of my chest during the state tournament. So, we got through it, we got over it, but it definitely was okay. I'm ready to do something.
So was it that experience that prompted you to go, you know what, I need to step back from Woodward, and then the Lemon Bay opportunity opened up and you said, I got to take that, or how did that kind of entire process happen?
It sort of all fell into place. It definitely was one of those kind of things where, my doctor after the, more or less after that, I had another surgery. I finally had the tubes removed from my chest. and, went in to see the doctor, and they said, listen, I don't think that, just pushing yourself any further is going to help things. The only way that's going to help you is time off. And I think it's when I decided to, take that time off, and I needed to take some medical, leave. I think that really is what got me to think about my future, about our future, my wife and I's, and my, what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And actually, during my, more or less spring break, right around that time, I went and visited, and that's what it was like. Oh, this is what I want to do. So it really helped me open my eyes to that perspective. Just like Woodward Academy was a great opportunity for 9 years. And I think I would have never considered the opportunity of Woodward Academy had I not gone through the things I went through and realized I want to spend more time with my kids. My daughter's in college at Savannah School of Art and Design. My son is wanting to be an engineer, and I want him to continue, I want him to continue to stay and finish out school. And he was almost done. And I think he wants to go to Georgia Tech. So I think that's something that I want to let that opportunity happen. And look, man, there's flights, 10,000 flights a day coming, and out within an hour of where I'm at. So I can see him, plenty every other weekend, and, in the summers, and spend a lot of time and get out there on the water. And he gets to experience a little bit of what, my life was like before I left for Oklahoma State University. But
yeah, so that's where I wanted to go next, which was, this is a coming home party. I mean, so for those people who don't know, I wrestled in Florida before you wrestled in Florida, but when your dad was wrestling or was coaching at Lemon Bay, and I mean, we knew the name, and we knew the program, the Mike Schicks and so on and so forth at Lemon Bay. So it's got to be a pretty cool feeling to go back there and have an opportunity to kind of, step into the same role that your dad was in.
Yep. I try to leave it up to maybe a higher power in terms of, making that decision for us. We interviewed at a lot of places. We visited a lot of places. We looked at a lot of places, North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina. But I just kept that pull of coming home, and ultimately it had to work out for my wife. It had to work out for us. It had to work out for me. And, it really just became something that I think on the 11th hour, like we had to make a decision. I greatly respect the time of everybody else who tried to, discuss this, with me as an opportunity to head their program. Something fell into our lap, again, within, I want to say by 5 o'clock on Friday, we were going to make a decision, and the decision was made for us at like 4:55 on that Friday, when we got 2 phone calls and said, we want you to do this thing. So ultimately, when all that fell into place, you just knew it was the right place, and you're right. 45 years ago, my dad started this program. I looked up to Mike Schick. He was the epitome of what you wanted to be as a wrestler at Lemon Bay High School for my dad. Doug Schick, Mike Schick, Roy Rain, Jerry Von Brock, all these like amazing wrestlers that I got to go on bus trips, and I got to,
and eventually Jeff Ragan, but we'll get, yeah.
I mean, look, I honestly, I didn't know what I wanted to do as a wrestler. I just knew how my dad's face lit up when he would talk about those wrestlers, and how, we would go since from 1992 was the first national tournament I went to. And that was, Mike's first All-American title. It was like, I'm going to go watch Mike, and that was in Northern Iowa. And I remember just being on a vehicle with a bunch of my dad's ex-wrestlers and going up there to see, him wrestle and see him compete. And he competed, 92, 93, 94, I believe, and watching him All-American, watch him place, watch him, but of course at that time I got to watch Pat Smith win his 4th national title. I'm like, yep, that's where I'm going. So it was a journey, but at the same time, every goal I set for myself when I was wrestling at Lemon Bay High School, I set it from a perspective of, I would take the long walk to the water fountain from the wrestling room, because he's all right, be back in 2 minutes. And instead of taking the water fountain that was right there where everybody get in line, I'd take the long walk, and there was a trophy case, and I could see every one of my dad's ex-wrestlers and every one of their compliments. They had little pictures and their own little trophy stances,
Yeah.
And I would look at what they did, and I said, okay. So I got a piece of paper out, and I was like, okay, what did Mike do? Okay, he was a 3-time finals, 2-time champ. Okay, goal. All right, what else did he? Oh, he was outstanding wrestler. Okay, goal. You know what I mean? And yeah, I set other goals for myself, but I wanted to set those goals. I wanted to be an All-American. You know, he was an All-American. I'm going to be an All-American. There was a lot of things. The influence of my dad's coaching and my dad's wrestlers was big on me saying, well, I want to be, you know, just as good as those guys, or, you know, just so my dad will look at me that way, you know, and nothing towards my dad. He's just one of those kind of people that doesn't give compliments out. You know, he's pretty good at the left-handed compliments, but he's not really good at the, hey, you did a good job, you know? So it's like, you know, hey, you know, maybe I wasn't a complete bozo, but what happened, this all kind of started in the fall of this last year. Before I got sick, I was invited to get inducted in the Hall of Fame. And my dad was going to go because he was inducted the year before, but he didn't go because of COVID. I was going to go that year, but my brother was also on one of the teams that was getting inducted at the same time, because my brother had wrestled for my dad, and they'd won a state title during one of those years. And so we were all three were going to go. We were so excited. We got tickets and we got a place to stay. And then the hurricane just, you know, demolished essentially all of, you know, Fort Myers, through Englewood. And we're talking 5 hours of sustained, you know, category 4 and 5 winds, or 3 or 4 hours of this, and just total devastation. So me missing out, but seeing how the repairs were going and hearing from my friends and seeing their Facebook posts and just going, oh my goodness. So obviously when I had my spring break, that's where I went and visited. You know, I wanted to go see how everybody's doing, because that was the first break I had since the season already started. And I was supposed to sneak down there like in November. Yeah. So it was just one of those things that I wanted to see how everybody was doing. And that's what sort of led, one thing led, you know, the principal was one of my mom's ex drama students. The AD was one of my dad's ex wrestlers. Right. You know, Mike's over there. He's and David Kelly, he wrestled for Georgia State. He wrestled teammates of mine, and he wrestled for my dad. And you just looked at all these alumni that were coming back, and, you know, just the conversation of like, wouldn't that be cool? And I'm like, you know, and that turned into something that actually worked out. But it all came full circle, and I'm just excited for the opportunity that I wasn't going to force it, but if it was the right thing and it was an opportunity for me to say, you know, life's precious, you know, you go through some of the things that I've gone through, whether, you know, my doctor's like, look, your arm literally exploded because your fistula, because you decided to wrestle with it, and we had to sew it back together so you didn't bleed to death. And I'm like, you know, it's just, you know, it was just a flesh wound. You know, this is Monty Python and the Quest of Holy Grail, right? You know, I chopped your arm off. You're like, no, you didn't. You know, I just, you know, that's kind of how I've always approached everything. I think I remember after I had my transplant at the Citadel at Medical University of South Carolina, I had my transplant on a Wednesday. My brother and I were racing down the halls in like on those IV stands, because it was, I can beat you, you can beat me. Like we competed so much about who could recover faster, do things faster, that they just kicked us out. I gave my final exam on Friday. I was out in 48 hours. I signed a kid, you know, that day, and I did give my final exam. So for me, they're like, you need 2 weeks. And I'm going, that's fine. But the difference, I think, for me that really got me to reflect was my doctor said, this isn't your kidney. It's your brother's kidney. He gave you this kidney. And you're going to ruin this kidney if you don't give yourself some time to rest. And so I did. I took essentially, I think he didn't clear me until the end of May. And that's right around the time we decided. I think we made that decision right there, that pretty much that same week.
So you are headed back to Lemon Bay. And for those of us, you know, who are aware of Lemon Bay, I mean, we've watched Mike Schick head that program for the last several years. Mm-hmm. You know, is he, I'm interested in kind of, is he going to stick around, and can I help you out with the transition? Mm-hmm. How does that work? And is your wife going, what are you doing? Like, you know, you're just got this competitive nature, and are you going to get, you know, we hope you don't get yourself back in that same situation again, but, you know, you got to be cautious, right?
So my wife's more competitive than I am. I'm just going to tell you that right now. So she gets it. And I think that's sort of, you know, why we fell for each other so hard and so fast. But I feel like it's a combination of two things. Number one, if I don't have the opportunity to take a break to rest, I'm not going to take it. I'm going to fill that. And so we got ourselves you know, first of all, Englewood is right there on the water on the West Coast. It's this little sort of hidden gem of a town. When I left and went to college, there was not a single light in that, like, stoplight in the entire town. And it wasn't until I got done with college that I was like, oh my God, there's a red light here.
Well, and you go from Englewood in the southwest coast of Florida to Oklahoma. I mean, woo.
It was a change. I think the only other college that I really considered and was offered a full ride to was Ohio State. that town was too big for me. I can't. I think I chipped my tooth when I was wrestling one of the college guys. I stayed there for a summer. I was staying with Mike Schick, and I stayed there and I was training there, and I chipped my tooth. Like, oh, it's fine. We're just going to drive you to the other, to campus to where they can fix your tooth. It was a 25-minute drive, and it was on campus. I'm like, how far are we going? Oh, it's just around this, like 17 lights, and I've never seen, that kind of experience. So ultimately, that was too big. I thought, Stillwater was just small enough where it was a small town, even though when school was in, it was big. When the school was out, it was a tiny town. And so, I had some relatives there, and it seemed like a really good fit. But, for me, we got ourselves a house right on the water. Got a boat lift. It's got a dock, and you get home from practice and you just say, okay, I'm going to just sit on this dock and fish, or I'm going to get on this boat and I'm going to go out and we're going to go see the sunset together. I think that there just has to be that checks and balances of saying, I'm going to take advantage of the downtime, because I noticed that's what I needed in order for my body to heal. Was, when you're fighting an infection, rest is the number one medicine. Even though they pumped me through every type of antibiotics for almost 2 some odd months to fix it, it was the rest is what ultimately was what healed it. So, ultimately I'm just saying from a perspective of, I'm going to make sure that I give myself that, balance to the best of my ability. But I can do that because, to your question, what is Mike going to do? What is Jason going to do? What's David going to do? Well, Jason's a three-time All-American from Minnesota, 3-time Division I All-American. He was a, cadet bronze medalist and for Greco. Then you got Mike, who's a, 2-time All-American from Ohio State. He's a 2-time veteran world champion. He's a fantastic coach in his own right. Jason's a fantastic coach in his own right. David Kelly's probably one of the most, I think he's the hardest working guy, but he's behind the scenes doing the fundraising, doing the club stuff, working with the youth kids, just he's that guy that's just the glue that keeps it all together. And I'm thinking to myself, if I put myself in a situation where I have this amazing group of people to work with, and, nothing against the great, relationships and coaches I got to work with when I was at Woodward Academy, but it's almost like they can all be head coaches in their own right. And yet we're all going to work together. So yeah, Mike says, I'm going to step aside and I'm going to continue to be involved and help. But he was so busy with his new job that, he's traveling all the time. He says, I want to come and just practice. I want to roll with the guys. Nothing would make me happier than if I could just grab a hold of guys every day, which is the most fun thing in our job, is just to grab a hold of a kid and roll around. And to get to do that, which, by the way, another reason Georgia just, I couldn't do it anymore. You can't even grab a hold of a kid and drill with them anymore. You know what I mean? If you want to do help with a youth camp for Team Georgia, U14, you make them ineligible because you helped them out when they were in middle school. So now they can't come to high school. Like all these things, I just love to coach. I just love to get a hold of kids. I just love to help. And that love of helping kids and that love of wrestling. Now I've got 4 D1 wrestlers and 3 Division I All-Americans and world, level coaches that are just going to roll with the guys every day and just make them better. And I don't have to feel like it's just one person, saying, follow me, let's go. I don't have the same crazy rules that stop, coaches from getting to make kids better and love getting to roll with those kids. Whether 4 kids show up and you got to say, oh, I'm sorry, there's a 5th kid, you can't come in. It's just, look, I mean, I want all my kids to do all the sports. I did 3 sports in high school. I love doing all my sports.
Well, in Florida, for people who don't know, Florida is much more open than Alabama or Georgia or a lot of the other states. You have lots of opportunities to kind of be involved as much or as little as you want.
Correct. And for me, my love of wrestling, I couldn't continue to be told, you have to tell people to go away. You can't help Pitt. You can't do Team Georgia anymore. I did Team Georgia for 9 years, and now I'm going to get in trouble if I do Team Georgia because someone's going to get upset that, I was proud of being able to, coach those schoolboys to win a national title. I was proud to see those cadets finish top 3 and top 4 every year at duels in Fargo. And I was proud to see those juniors do that, even though COVID kind of swept some of that away. Yeah. I'm also proud to see all those coaches, those wrestlers continue to have success. When I went to ACC and watched those kids wrestle, watching, those kids at Virginia Tech and watching those kids at UNC and watching those kids at, at NC State and having success, you're like, that's so great. I was a part of that, but now it's like, it's even harder and it's more difficult to do that. And in Florida, look, if I can have 4 Division I wrestlers and 3 Division I All-Americans and all 3 of them have world level experience and then you're at all these other programs in the Southeast where you can't even get better because of all these rules, and you're forced to go to these, training centers that maybe don't even have those opportunities. And we have it all in one school. It's kind of a no-brainer for whether it's a wrestler looking for a new home, or it's just as a coaching staff looking to do what you love. So
yeah. Well, my last question to you is going to be actually talking about some of those former wrestlers and everything else, because you had a kid you took a couple of years ago to Russia, I believe, for a world
for Russia,
team.
yeah, right,
yeah, and he just made the U20 freestyle team, and
freestyle,
freestyle this time, Greco last time. How does that kind of, I don't want to say make you feel, but like, what are you? I'm sure you're following all the kids, like we're following all the kids, as they leave and everything else. Have you had a conversation with him and talked about kind of that?
Of course. We texted literally in between every single match. Like, this is how I am with my wrestlers. I think that all these guys that are, I don't know. I wasn't in Georgia long enough to know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it's pretty good. There's 12 kids wrestling in college in the last several years that I was at Woodward Academy, and 10 of them are wrestle Division I. So you got 2 at UPenn, you got 1 at Columbia, you got 1 at Princeton, you got 1 at West Point, you got 1 at Naval Academy, you got 1 at NC State. They're all over, and you better believe that I'm in touch with those kids every single time they wrestle at a tournament or have a good competition. They let me know. They let me know. I let them know, and I say, listen, I will always be your coach. I will always be your mentor. And I know those kids know it. And some of those kids, I got a phone call yesterday from a kid who came to my camp in 2004 at Wren High School and said, "Do you remember me?" Well, he's got he's like, "You made fun of my broken nose because I got hit in the face with a baseball." But here's the thing, all jokes aside, he still remembers the influence I had and how he loved his next 2 years of wrestling, had a lot of success, and he's still coaching. And then to come find out that the guy who's been helping him out is Pierre Frazil, who is also from Charlotte County, Florida, and wrestled for me at, the Citadel. We got a citizenship, with the United States, and then, went on, and now he's doing, public safety, and he's an officer, and when you hear that all of those people you've helped at camps and clinics and freestyle, Greco, the stuff that you're volunteering, helping out, that they then are now paying that forward and helping that out, and then calling me up, and it was like, "Hey, I just have a question. How do you get those kids that are really good in the wrestling room to be really good in?" And I'm like, he then introduces himself, because I call him, like, "Yeah, well, just, freely I had great coaches, John Smith, my dad. I'm happy to help you." And then I come to find out this guy was from 19 years ago, and he still remembered the experience from that camp. And I remember the kid with the making a comment about, "Well, what are you doing playing baseball for? You should be a wrestler." But still, it's those impacts that you can make. And that still happens today with the kids that are wrestling in college. So you better believe, when Maddie's out there getting ready to wrestle, we're texting back and forth. So what do you think, coach? He broke his finger at the ACC. I was there. I watched him wrestle, and he had surgery, and he wasn't allowed to do anything until 2 weeks before. And he texted me. He's like, "What do you think? You think I should wrestle?" I'm like, "Heck yeah, you should wrestle." 2 weeks of preparation, getting himself back in shape. It was, what the weight class we should go, talking to his dad, talking to him, then, his every single match, giving him feedback, texting him, after he lost his match, in match 2, I'm like, "You got to hit your rebounds, you can't, don't back away, re-engage, And I think that, being part of that, I'm never going to not want to be their coach. And you better believe when those kids go to the NCAA, I will be there. When those kids, make those impacts, I'm going to be there. And whether it's getting invited to their weddings or getting invited to college graduations or high school graduations, or just watching them have success in life or on the mats or in the classroom or, anywhere, I want to be part of that. So you better believe that I was still a part of that experience, and I enjoyed it thoroughly watching him be successful.
Very cool. Well, Coach, I want to first congratulate you on the new job down at Lemon Bay. Second, wish you Godspeed as far as continued good health and everything else. And we will probably run across one another in, a couple of weeks or in the fall, definitely on the mats down in Florida. And maybe I'll drop in on you down at Lemon Bay sometime, and we can talk a little bit about it.
I would love to give you a tour of the facilities. I've already got my,
Ooh, I love it.
Repping. And, I may have left a school that was $35,000 a year to go to, but I got to tell you, from the weight room to the facilities, to the school, to the wrestling room, I'd say they're second to none. And that's the best perk of all. So I think just letting people know what we got going on this little quaint town right on the beach. I'm looking forward to helping, do the most good down there, and people that want to continue to have success, they'll be able to come find me. And when you build it, they'll come. And I think, look, Mike's done a great job. I just look forward to building off of that. So,
well, and good for the state of Florida. I mean, the state of Florida as a whole is going to benefit from that. So we appreciate it.
Well,
Thanks,
John Lawton already hit me up and he said, "Are you going to help with freestyle?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm going to help with freestyle." So I remember. Yeah.
All right, Coach, you take care. See you.
All right.
Bye.